Good afternoon. We could go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar today, Crafting the Perfect Pitch, Tailor Your Sponsorship Deck for Success. This is a Sponsorship Success Method webinar, and we want to welcome all our friends in all time zones to our webinar. It'll last in between 45 minutes to an hour. I will stay on the webinar until all the questions are answered. So without further ado, let's start with a little housekeeping. A replay of this webinar will be available on YouTube on the Charge Sponsorship YouTube channel after the webinar. So if you wanted to review that, there's no need to rush or take notes or screen caps or whatever of this webinar. The entire webinar in its full will be available on YouTube afterwards. You may ask questions throughout the webinar. I will monitor the questions, and if they're relevant to what I'm talking about at the time, I'll stop and address the question at the time. Otherwise, I'll address all questions at the end of the webinar, but feel free to ask anything on your mind about sponsorship and the materials that we address during today's webinar. Finally, when the webinar concludes, a survey will appear in your browser. We'd appreciate if you would fill out that survey. Not only helps us make for better content in future webinars, but we've asked about what information is relevant to you so we can tailor the topics of future webinars to the things that are top of mind for you. So if you would fill out that survey, we'd appreciate it. A link to the survey will also come to you via Zoom tomorrow after the webinar's conclusion. So today we're going to talk about how to customize your deck. This is something that's really important to us, and it's obviously important to the members of our Sponsorship Success Method family. Today's webinar is more or less a sample member experience. You'll not only sample the information that we share as part of the Sponsorship Success Method, but the Q&A portion resembles our group coaching sessions where our members get to pose any question about any sponsorship challenge that is that's vexing them at the time, so they can overcome that challenge and find the sponsors they deserve. Our Sponsorship Success Method is really about the real facts about sponsorship. Neither this webinar nor the Sponsorship Success Method is a college course on sponsorship. No one needs a college course on sponsorship. This is about the real facts that make sponsors work and the real facts about what sponsors want. We want you to be in a position to build a program where partners and sponsors will sign on with you and attract sponsors to your program that you truly deserve. Again, I mentioned if you stay till the end, I'll certainly be happy to answer any questions that you have. But before we go into the content in today's webinar, I wanted to share a little about my history that kind of sets the stage for how I became a sponsorship coach and consultant. A long time ago, when I had a lot less gray hair, I exited law and government and started a career in sports and auto racing, to be specific. And at the time, I thought this was my dream job. I mean, everybody wants to work in sports, or at least it seems. And I had that opportunity. And shortly thereafter, I became responsible for the sales and marketing function in my organization. And part of that was I was leading the sponsorship team. So my sales team and I jumped right into the market and started selling. Now, I often say that I don't have all the answers, but I have made every mistake. And it was during this period of my career that I literally made every mistake in sponsorship. I didn't understand sponsorship value. I didn't do my research about sponsorship prospects. My brand was not sponsorship ready. That is, the offering I was making was not really ready for the market. And it was clear that I was an awful storyteller. But over 9 years, learning the hard way from mistakes, picking myself up, having good mentors, good teachers, good coaches, I learned my lesson, and my team and I started to get the job done, including closing one noteworthy deal that was worth $30 million in both cash and product. It's these lessons and the 27 years since then that have become the sponsorship success method. Today, I lead a sponsorship consulting company. We advise not only Fortune 500 brands, but clients large and small in virtually every market: arts, entertainment, nonprofit, sports, government, education, in the art and science of sponsorship. Our track record is many decades long of dealing both on the buy side, advising sponsors, and on the sell side, advising properties that are selling sponsorship. But we knew that there was a market that was underserved, and that was individuals and smaller organizations that needed to sell sponsorship. There was really nothing out there that truly addressed their needs. So the sponsorship success method was born. Now let's dive into the content of customizing that sponsorship deck. So the sponsorship deck is the fundamental sales tool that you have as part of sponsorship. This is our sponsorship deck template. It is by far our most popular piece of free content that we offer the sponsorship community. It has been downloaded thousands of times. I'm going to refer to how we lay out the sponsorship deck in this webinar. If you wanted to, there's no need, but if you wanted to download it to follow along, feel free to scan this QR code. It will take you right to the deck template download page. But I'll be describing it in enough detail that you don't necessarily have to download it, but wanted you to have the opportunity. The reason why the sponsorship deck is so fundamental is it's the way that you will kick the door open to have a conversation with a sponsor prospect about a potential partnership with you. It's the way you attract attention. It's the way you frame the opportunity. It's the way you introduce yourself. Without a great sponsorship deck, there is no discovery conversation. If there's no discovery conversation, there's no sponsorship. So it is a fundamental sales tool that you will use at the beginning of every sponsorship journey. So let's talk more about why you customize and how you do it. So why you customize? If for those who know me, you know that I often talk about shoe sales as a teaching tool. And so I'll use this particular example about why it's important to customize. So if you're looking for shoes online and you come upon a pair that you really like, you'll click through. And when you look at the sizes, if there isn't the shoe in your size, what are you going to do? You're going to use that mouse button to click back as fast as you possibly can. And in this case, I'm a size 9.5. So if a shoe company like Zappos is trying to sell me shoes and I see that there is no size 9.5, there is no reason for me to continue this sales journey anymore. I'm gone. Similarly, if you send a sponsorship deck to a sponsor and they don't see their size in the sponsorship deck, they will do the same thing. They will click that delete button on the email or direct message, and your message and your sponsorship deck will be quickly gone. So it's important to be relevant. It's important that you connect with your sponsor prospect by what they need, by what they want. And we're going to talk about how to do that. So there are essentially 6 deck components in a sponsorship deck, and they proceed along this line. The first section, which is about us, you're describing who you are and what you stand for. It's literally the first 8 seconds, and there's academic research that indicates that really you have about 8 seconds to capture the attention of your prospect before they decide whether you're relevant or not. So your about us section describing who you are and what you stand for, super important in that sales journey. I often say that the 3 most important aspects of sponsorship are audience, audience, and audience. And so for that reason, the audience section, which typically comes next, is super important in the sponsorship journey. The sponsor in the audience section is looking to see if their potential customers are in your audience, and your audience is describing who you serve. It could be your fans, your attendees, your members, your donors. It's the people that you serve, the people that are connected to you as a property. The next section, your marketing capability, describes how you communicate. It's whether you have an Instagram feed, a Facebook page, email marketing, public relations, a great website. It's really the way that you speak to your audience. The reason why that's important is the sponsor is going to piggyback its message on your marketing capability. If your marketing capability is great, the sponsor knows that it can piggyback effectively and reach your audience with its message. If your marketing capability is not very good, you'll be really hard pressed to demonstrate that you're a worthy partnership partner. The next is the opportunity, your sponsorship offer. It's describing how you can help the sponsor, what you're offering them, use of your logo, signage, opportunity to be on your website, all those things that encompass the sponsorship offer. Then there's activation ideas. And the reason why including some activation ideas are important in your sponsorship deck is you're giving the sponsor prospect a sense of how they can work with you, how they can make the sponsorship work for them, because they might not have that idea going into this discussion. So you're showing them, hey, listen, this is a great opportunity because we're going to describe how, or give you 2 or 3 ideas about how this partnership would come to life. And finally, there's the thank you section, which is more than just thanking the prospect for its time and reviewing your deck. It's describing what's next. It's providing your telephone number, your email address, suggesting a next meeting time, all those different things to keep the conversation going. Now, the customizing formula is simple. Customizing is a little more complex, but let's talk about this formula right now and get into the actual implementation of it. So you're going to start customizing your sponsorship deck by having what we call a standard deck. It's a deck, unfortunately, that many people send without customization, but it's basically your core. It's all the sections that we just discussed, the About Us section, the Audience section, but it's kind of your core sponsorship deck offering. And from that, you'll take the different sections and customize it by doing 2 things: combining your prospect research with all the different sponsorship portfolio components that you have at your disposal. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit in this webinar. You take your prospect research and your sponsorship portfolio components, and then you reframe all of this. You take your standard deck, reframe based on the research and the components, and you come up for each sponsorship prospect with your own customized sponsorship deck. Again, those of you on this webinar who know me know that I am obsessed with pizza. So if I'm going to talk about sponsorship for an hour, I'm going to talk about a pizza event. So we have made up, for the purposes of this teaching tool, a property called the 7th Annual Pizza Fest USA. It is a pizza festival. You may have been to a pizza festival. I have. It is a live event. It happens outdoors. And it could be any outdoor event, whether sports event, arts event, entertainment event. But I wanted to use this as a teaching tool for the purposes of this webinar. So now I'm starting the sponsorship journey. And the first thing that I'm doing is I'm doing some sponsorship research. Now, I'm selecting either endemic sponsors or non-endemic sponsors. Endemic sponsors are sponsors that are related to the topic of your property. So for a pizza festival, an endemic sponsor would be anything related to the pizza industry. It could be pizza retail outlets. It could be the maker of pizza products. It could be the seller of pizza retail items. It is anything related to pizza. Often, just for the sake of discussion, a non-endemic sponsor, and this research would be very similar for a non-endemic sponsor. A non-endemic sponsor would be that sponsor that is not related to the topic, but is connected somehow to your audience. So for instance, an auto dealer might connect with the audience at a pizza festival, but it is not related to the pizza industry. That auto dealer will be a non-endemic, called a non-endemic sponsor. So we found two also fictitious endemic sponsors for a pizza festival. One is Ken's Frozen Pizza. Ken's Frozen Pizza is a new entrant to a crowded frozen pizza market. Although this brand recently convinced Kroger to carry its SKUs in freezer cases, it has near zero brand awareness. It has a cauliflower crust version that claims to be 50% lower in calories than traditional crust pizzas. So this is what we call a B2C or business to consumer sponsor. So they're looking to create brand awareness among the Pizza Fest audience. The other sponsor that we researched is Incredible Grains. The Incredible Grains Flour Company sells artisanal whole wheat flour made from incredible grains. Although it is attempting to enter the home baking market, its primary focus is on wholesaling its flour to local independent pizzerias. To this end, it would like to develop pizzeria vendor leads. This is what we call a business-to-business sponsor or B2B sponsor. And they're looking to sell to the pizza vendors. They are not looking to sell to the general public, but to the pizza vendors that will be at the Pizza Fest USA Pizza Festival. So we have two sponsors, one B2C, one B2B. Now let's talk about how we customize the deck for both. Because time is limited in our webinar, we're not going to go through all six. We can't go through all six of the sections of a sponsorship deck, but we will go through three. And these three are very important. So I wanted to go through in detail how in each case, I, as a sponsorship seller for Pizza Fest USA, how I took my base deck, my standardized deck, and I customized it for each of my sponsor prospects. Ken's Pizza, the frozen pizza prospect, and Incredible Grains, the B2B prospect. So we talked about the customization formula is really about reframing. Reframing is the selection of content to express a different perspective. Think of it this way. You have all this information about you, your property, its history, your audience, all the different things that make up your sponsorship offer, different sponsorship assets. And even just in the audience section, we're going to talk about that in a minute, but you have demographic data about the things about your audience that don't change: their gender, age, place of residence, household income, all those different things. You have psychographic data. That is, what are their values? What are their hobbies? What are things that are important to your audience personally? And you have buying habits. You have information about what brands they like, what brands they don't like, what they'll be in the market for in the near future. So you have this massive information about yourself, your history, all of that. And you're going to take that and reframe it in a way that will target the particular prospect that you're sending your sponsorship deck to. So this is the base deck about us. Pizza Fest is an annual celebration of all things pizza, eagerly anticipated by pizza enthusiasts and foodies. Excuse me. Spanning 3 vibrant cities each year, Pizza Fest brings together a tantalizing array of pizza vendors, culinary experts, and passionate pizza lovers for a savory experience unlike no other. From traditional Neapolitan pies to innovative gourmet creations, attendees indulge in a smorgasbord of flavors and styles, accompanied by live music, entertainment, and interactive. Now, some people would send this base deck to every single sponsor. But like we talked about in the shoe example, if this does not hit the mark for your particular prospects, delete button. I call that strategy spray and pray. You are spraying the market with the same deck, praying that you'll get a response. And it doesn't. And the reason why I know it doesn't is because I used to do it. So we're not going to do this on this webinar. We're going to customize this deck because we want to get to yes. We want to create partnerships, valuable partnerships with sponsorship prospects. So how do we do that? For Ken's Pizza, we will take part of the About Us base deck that's relevant to a frozen food business to consumer prospect that is really seeking to find people to buy, consumers to buy its new frozen pizza. So I took a fact out of the Pizza Fest arsenal of facts and added it to the About Us section, because in that 8 seconds that prospect, that the sponsorship manager from Ken's Pizza is looking at this deck, I want to capture its attention with relevance. So the reframe data that I selected was, each year, Pizza Fest USA features new and healthier pizza tastes, and over the past 10 years has launched national pizza brands like Tommy's Sicilian, Andy's Neapolitan, and Ruth's Thin Crust. So I've done 2 things in customizing this About Us section. And again, those who know me know I love the double bank shot. And this is a double bank shot. I did 2 things with this. One is I told Ken's Pizza that, hey, we've launched other brands successfully, brands that frankly, brands you're going to compete with, and they got launched here at Pizza Fest USA. So I'm telling a company that's seeking brand awareness for its new product that we have been there, done that in the About Us section. Notice I didn't do that in the base deck because that's not relevant to every sponsor. The other thing I did is I added the words "and healthier," because that sponsorship manager knows they got to push that cauliflower crust pizza. So if I'm telling them that we have also launched healthier pizza varieties, or healthier pizzas are in our bailiwick of activities at Pizza Fest USA, again, I've customized this deck to establish relevance. Now, our Incredible Grains prospect. Same thing, took the base deck, but changed it a little. First thing I did was I highlighted the word pizza vendors, right? It's a tantalizing array of pizza vendors. A B2B sponsor, this is a bit of an oversimplification, but it's generally true. They could care less how many customers you have at an event. They're looking for business customers or businesses that are, or other organizations that are attending an event that they can sell to. The other thing that we added to customize this, again, we have all this information as part of our repertoire of information about our property, about us. I didn't include this next part in the base deck because it wasn't relevant, but with the exception of the International Pizza Expo in Las Vegas, Pizza Fest USA draws the largest number of pizza vendors in one place in America. For a B2B brand that's seeking to sell to pizza vendors, I've established relevance. And by the way, anyone in this webinar who will send me to the International Pizza Expo, I will consult with for free. So just a little note, a little side note in the webinar. Our audience. Now, this is just the demographic page. Now, we often recommend that in the audience section of your sponsorship deck, even in the base deck, it at least have 3 pages: demographics, psychographics, and buying habits, as we discussed before. Frankly, there isn't a limit to the number of pages about audience, because again, if the sponsor does not see its customers in your audience, game over. There is no reason for the sponsorship to happen, because there's no way the sponsorship will work, because the sponsor is using the sponsorship to enhance its marketing, to increase sales in whatever form. So how did we customize this for our 2 hypothetical prospects? Well, for our business to consumer prospect, Ken's Pizza, they're all about people who can buy frozen pizza. So I'm doing a couple things with this slide. This is the largest gathering of pizza lovers. Message to Ken's Pizza: you can't have a more target-rich environment than Pizza Fest USA. Then I am underscoring it with data. Again, I have all this data. I'm just choosing when to use it for which sponsorship prospect, the ones that are relevant. So there are 225,000 attendees and 55,000 email subscribers who either attend or who don't attend that I talk to all the time about pizza. That our audience consumes 8 million pizzas every year. 68% of our attendees eat pizza at least once a week, and 83% either love or like very much frozen pizza. Again, I'm adding this probably as a fourth slide to the sponsorship deck, because when the sponsorship manager for Ken's Pizza sees this, it is nothing but ka-ching, the cash register going off in terms of, well, this is super success. This could be a super successful partnership for us. And then, as if the data and the headline was not enough, I added the photo of the Pizza Fest USA audience, which is people or frozen pizza buyers as far as the eye can see. So again, this is the way I'm customizing the base deck. I may or may not use this with any other sponsor prospect, but I am for Ken's Pizza. Now, Incredible Grains, our B2B sponsor. Yes, they care that there are 225,000 people there. They want to be associated with a successful event. And yes, they care how much pizza is consumed. Because remember in the research, we saw that they do want to sell to the home baking market. So if 63% of people are eating pizza on a regular basis, they want to get into the pantry of those people when they make homemade pizza. But in the prospect research showed us that they want to sell to vendors. So I am serving up that as, again, probably a fourth slide in my audience section. 47 independent restaurant vendors at the Pizza Fest USA events, that these vendors have $100 million in annual retail sales back at their pizzerias, that they use 1.4 million pounds of flour annually. Again, through the mind of the sponsorship manager at Incredible Grains, they're already getting the calculator out, looking at the margin on each pound of flour that they can sell to these pizzerias. I added sauce and mozzarella because that might be relevant in other arrangements. For example, if I'm going after a tomato sauce manufacturer or wholesaler, or a mozzarella maker. So this is the way that I'm customizing. Again, I'm creating relevance so that sponsorship manager from Incredible Grains will read on. Now the opportunity. Really, the opportunity section here is typical on what you would see, yet you might create. We recommend in the opportunity section, you do a couple of things. One is you're really creating a menu of potential ways that the sponsor prospect can use your sponsorship. You're not creating something specific for the prospect at this point, to the extent that you don't really know exactly what they need. So you really want to create a menu. So you're not saying they get 5 event banners and 3 entrance banners and 2 A-frames and all these different things. You're really creating a menu from which they can pick. This menu needs to be somehow relevant to the sponsor prospect, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. The other thing that you're not going to do in this sponsorship deck is you're not going to attach a price to this. So many people in so many decks will set out a specific opportunity. You get X benefits, X assets, and it's $10,000. Well, again, you don't know what that particular sponsor needs. So you're not in a position to be able to quote a price, because if, for example, they have no use for an on-site display, they're going to think that you're padding the price that you just offered because you included an on-site display. The place for you to provide pricing is after the sponsor prospect has reacted to this menu, expressed an interest in certain assets that they need, and then you come back to them with a sponsorship proposal, which is the next stage in the sponsorship journey after sponsorship deck, discovery conversation, sponsorship proposal. Now let's talk a little about how we integrated the things that we think. Now, I talked before that I haven't spoken to Ken's Pizza yet, so I don't really know for sure what they need. But based on the fact that my research told me that they need to create brand awareness, they want to push a healthier product that they have, which is the cauliflower crust pizza. I know basically the types of assets that they might want. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to narrow this vector, this targeting vector, as much as I possibly can, because I really want to get to the point where I'm highly relevant to them so that in the customization process of taking your base deck opportunity and turning it into a customized opportunity for Ken's Pizza, what I'm doing is I'm taking out the irrelevant stuff and I'm adding the things that I think are relevant, again, in order to have that great conversation. Now, to the extent you take things out, don't worry. If you have a conversation with the sponsor prospect and they'll say, "Hey, I see that there's no stage signage in this proposal. We really want stage signage." At that point, it's an easy enough thing for you to say, "Of course, we have stage signage. What kind of stage signage do you want? How do you want it displayed?" Talk through that issue so then you can include it in a sponsorship proposal. So again, because you're just kicking the door open to have a conversation, this is not the be all end all. But again, we want to create relevance because we want to have that conversation. We want to get to that discovery conversation. And customizing this opportunity section will help you do that. So for Ken's Pizza, here's what we did. The items in red are relevant to someone trying to create brand awareness and someone trying to sell a business to consumer product. So the things in red are those things from our base deck that stayed in this particular customized opportunity section for our business to consumer prospect. The one thing that did come out in brand exposure was stage signage, what I just mentioned. And the reason why that came out is we'll talk about this in the next slide for our B2B prospect. A stage at Pizza Fest USA is a place where they have demonstrations, generally about how to make pizza, or have interviews with celebrities, celebrity pizza chefs, and such. So it is not a place that you're serving up frozen pizza. So I took stage signage out because stage signage is probably something that a business to consumer sponsor that is not being discussed on that stage. There's no relevance on that stage. So I took that out because I can only have so much signage on that stage, and I am going to use it elsewhere. And that's a theme that we'll talk about in a minute, because a lot of times your inventory, your sponsorship assets are finite. And you can't give every asset to every sponsor prospect. So in your mind, you're going to hold things back for those sponsors that can use that particular inventory the best and wants it the most. And again, in audience engagement, I took out product integration from the base deck. That's irrelevant. We're not going to, in a pizza making contest, we're not going to focus on frozen pizza. So I'm not going to integrate the frozen pizza into the interactive aspects of what we're doing. However, I mentioned the fact that these guys want to increase sales. They want to increase brand awareness. They just got put into Kroger. So one thing I want to do is I want to have a co-branded coupon that either I'm going to put on the e-ticket. If I have paper tickets, I'll put on our paper ticket back. I could email my co-branded coupon to all the attendees, the ticket buyers, my email list. Again, I'm going to create a couponing opportunity for a B2C sponsor, that prospect that wants to have that, so they can have that opportunity. And again, I know for a fact that they've just launched their cauliflower crust pizza. So most likely in the discovery conversation, I'm going to say, "Hey, listen, I added a co-branded coupon to the inventory that we're talking about, because I know that you want to feature your cauliflower crust pizza, which by the way is delicious, and I just tried it before this call. So the other thing that you'll add is access to the ticket buyer email list. Again, you don't want to offer this to every sponsor because no audience wants to be bombarded with sponsor messages, even if they have previously agreed in your opt-in to receive emails from sponsors. You want to be very gingerly in offering access, but I'm offering it to this B2C customer or prospect, especially since I know they want to create brand awareness. So again, I'm customizing it. I'm making this thing more delectable because that's what this particular prospect wants. I'm taking out hospitality because generally a B2C customer, a B2C prospect will not leverage hospitality. So I only have so much room in my hospitality area. I only have so many people I can put in my celebrity meet and greet when they meet the celebrity pizza chefs. So I'm taking that out. And I mentioned before, I'm leaving those items in like media coverage and participation in community projects, because what sponsor doesn't want to be involved in community projects that are forward facing to the community and helpful and are about purpose-driven aspects of the particular sponsorship. So this is the way that I would customize the deck for Ken's Pizza, the opportunity section. The opportunity section for Incredible Grains. Again, I'm starting with my base deck, but you notice a lot of things fell out of this base deck. Again, B2B sponsor not really wanting to be customer facing at the event. They do want some exposure, absolutely want some exposure. So event banners, stage signage, we'll talk about that, and public address reads stayed in. Another reason I've taken out a lot of the attendee-facing signage is once you get to the price aspect, once you do quote a price in your sponsorship proposal, you don't want your sponsorship prospect to think that they're paying for a lot of assets that they're not going to use or don't need. So again, if in the discovery conversation, Incredible Grains wants to put in more signage, great. I'll put in more signage. But right now, as I customize this to show relevance, I'm going to focus on what a B2B sponsor would want. So the audience engagement is really where rubber hits the road for Incredible Grains and reaching pizza vendors, which remember that is their objective. We're going to integrate them into the baking contest. We're going to put them on stage. This is why I included stage signage. And I created this product integration in the baking contest because then your MC, who is emceeing any kind of pizza baking demonstration, whether it's a pizza baking contest or a chef making pizza, the MC and the participants can talk about how incredible tasting Incredible Grains flour is. The other thing I'm adding for audience engagement is I'm creating a presenting sponsor opportunity, but not for Pizza Fest USA. I have a reception for all the vendors. So I charge the vendors a lot of money to display at Pizza Fest USA. So I throw them a little party. Maybe I serve them pizza, maybe I don't. But in any event, I have a party for them, a reception for them prior to the festival. Presenting sponsor of it, Incredible Grains. So Incredible Grains gets forward-facing access right where all the pizza vendors, the owners of the pizzeria, their buyers, their managers, they all attend this prior to the pizza festival. I'm putting the sponsor front and center in front of their audience. And I include Incredible Grains in the annual cookbook. Again, it gives me more opportunity to demonstrate how this flour is a superior mix in any homemade or pizzeria-made pizza. So I'm giving Incredible Grains the opportunity to engage the audience right then and there. I am definitely including hospitality access. This is where engagement happens in B2B deals. It happens in hospitality. It's where Incredible Grains will invite prospects, not only vendors who are on site who probably are pretty busy during the festival, but buyers from all over the Incredible Grains ecosystem, bringing them to this pizza festival to watch the stage events, to have hospitality, VIP hospitality access, and then to attract them by meeting these renowned pizza chefs that'll be in this hospitality area. I'm leaving that in. And of course, I'm leaving in media coverage and community. Mentioned before, what sponsor doesn't want those things? They all do. So I'm leaving that in. But this is the way I've created relevance for Incredible Grains. Again, I don't want them to turn the page, go, oh my gosh, this thing has too much signage in it. This is not real. Don't they know I'm a business to business prospect? Yes, we do, which is why we customized it just the way we discussed. So I've just walked you through what would be a model teaching experience, coaching experience in the sponsorship success method. Any questions that you ask or questions that we discuss during the remainder of this webinar would be like the group coaching process. But here's how the sponsorship success method works. There's an online course where we have many hours of video on demand, which brings you up to speed on absolutely those things you need to know, nothing more than what you need to know, but what you need to know to get going with sponsorship fast and be successful. Group coaching, because no matter what we provide in online course, the only experience isn't the best teacher, experience is the only teacher. So we find that when our members get stuck, they need some coaching around how to get unstuck. So every week from 1 to 2:30 Eastern, we have group coaching, and our sponsorship success members come and ask us anything to help them get unstuck and be successful. We have a pricing calculator because no one likes to guess about what they should be offering in a sponsorship. So we give them a calculator, which gives them a really clear guide as to what fair market value is for their sponsorship opportunity. And we have a community. We have, similar to a Facebook group page, we have a private online community just for members to talk with each other, to share best practices, to reach out to us 24/7 and get their needs addressed. I often say that we are very similar to Sherpas. This particular Sherpa has been to the top of Everest, guiding climbers to the top of Everest over 20 times. And similarly, we are sponsorship guides guiding our sponsor members to sponsorship success. They're doing the hard work, just like climbing Everest is really, really hard work. But you need a guide to get to the top. And that's what we are. We're coaches that help people accomplish their dreams, to find sponsorship success and make whatever dream they have happen, come to fruition because of their sponsorship support. If you're interested, we can book a conversation. I want to know if you're a good fit for this program. Not everyone is a good fit for the sponsorship success method, so I want to talk about that. I want to answer any questions that you have. I want to learn more about you to determine if we can help you, if you'd be a good part of our community, if you're comfortable with our team. It all starts with a chat. So QR code on the right is what you can use to get on either mine or another one of our coaches' calendars to have that chat. The question is, do you want to start getting sponsors now? If you do, the sponsorship success method can help you address that. I now want to take as much time as you need and want to address any questions you have about how to customize a deck. You can ask any questions. The Q&A toolbar is at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Feel free to ask any questions. I do have one question. Should customization of my deck consider the tone? Great question. So we talked about information, visuals, all those things to help you uh, customize your deck. Well, the tone is also important, and I'll give you an example. This is one that came from a recent client experience that we have. You might be sending your sponsorship deck to all types of sponsor prospects. And just for the sake of discussion, I'll generalize a little bit. You might be sending a sponsorship deck to a sponsor prospect that is a big company, big corporation, very straight lace, very formal. They color within the lines. And so that is kind of example number one. Example number two is a rogue brand. Is a sponsor that is a challenger in the market. They are very free, very creative. They are very, very not a straight-laced brand. An example I'll give from my past is once upon a time when I was looking for sponsorship from Red Bull, I showed up to the Red Bull offices in Santa Monica, California with a suit. That was the end of my sponsorship discussion with the Red Bull brand. So tone is important. So I would change the language of your deck. Very proper for the sponsor that is very formal, very big company. Very loose, very informal for that brand that is creative, that is a rogue brand, a challenger brand. Why? Because they want to make sure that your brand matches their values. So a formal company does not want to deal with a rogue property. And a rogue sponsor does not want to deal with a very formal kind of property. So tone is really important. So next question is, we have an annual film festival for teens. Is it best to wait until it's time for the festival, or should we keep recruiting all year? It is really important that you look for sponsorship. I'll exaggerate a little bit. 24/7, 365. The sponsorship sales cycle, and that was a little bit of an exaggeration, but here's the truth. Sponsorship sales cycle could be anywhere from 6 months to 18 months. Now, sometimes that's shorter in the case of prospects that you know really, really, really well. Think charity gala for a nonprofit, 5K run that you go to the same sponsors every year. The sales cycle could be shorter, but it's still measured in months, usually not weeks. But I would recommend that you're out there selling all year round for the festival. And again, another thing is that just because your festival may be in January doesn't mean that a sponsor can turn on a dime and buy a sponsorship in November. Remember, most companies work on a budget. Budgets are generally for a January 1 fiscal year. Most budgets start to get formed around August, which is why that's the height of, or pretty much the end of sponsorship selling season, because sponsors, their budgets get proposed in the late summer, early fall. They get discussed in the late fall, and they get approved by Christmas. So you got to remember that. But I'm out there selling all the time, and I'd recommend, no matter when your festival is, that you do the same. Can you give me some insight into your experience with hospitality not working for B2C prospects? I've probably been making that mistake in my work. Thanks. So generally, B2C prospects are focused on getting in front of the audience. It's only when that B2C prospect has mixed goals, that is, they also have corporate accounts, which are B2B in nature. They are doing special hospitality for B2C. So for example, they use their hospitality as a reward. Think sweepstakes, win a trip to the big game and watch it from a suite. all those different things. You can offer B2C prospects hospitality. I'm not saying don't do that, but generally in our experience, B2C, they want to spend most of their rights fee. So that's the money, the rights fee is the money they're paying you. Their activation budget, if they're B2C, they want to reach your audience and they're not as interested in whining and dining themselves. So when I see a lot of these packages that just throw in suite access or hospitality or all those different things, again, you might be the sponsor manager might be questioning relevance, but then what they're really doing is they're saying, well, I don't want to be paying for a suite. I don't need a suite. I need to be moving SKUs of frozen pizza. Like I got my quarterly coming up, and if we're not moving SKUs for this sponsorship, I'm dead. I lose my job. So I don't want to be seen in a suite. I want to be out there hustling frozen pizza. So I don't know if you've been making a mistake. I would just give it thoughtful consideration prior to sending it to a B2C prospect. So that's my thought on that. What is the best strategy to get demographic detail about your audience if it has not been previously recorded? We have videos that you can find on the Charge Sponsorship YouTube channel that address that. There are free sources of YouTube of demographic data, generally that are zip code sorted. So if you have a terrestrial event, for example, you can get pretty close on some demographic information. But by and large, the two best sources for demographic information are going to be your website and your email. So think digital. Google Analytics. If Google Analytics is set up to monitor your website, it is collecting demographic data right now. And it's collecting some psychographic data too. Where your audience coming to your website lives, their age, their gender, their interests. It's quite spooky. So, but you get pretty close with things like that. And some of, especially if you have professional accounts on some of the social media platforms, you're going to get demographic information that way about your audience. By and large, the best way, the way that we recommend to get all of this data is by survey. There's a way to do a survey. Again, we also have a video about that, but it's what we teach in the sponsorship success method. It's really coaxing very carefully out of your audience the demographic data by survey, because that's really the best way to do it. And if you do it in a way where you're very authentic and honest about why you're doing it, like I'm not doing it to sell more stuff to you, especially like, for example, if you're a nonprofit. I need this demographic data because we can attract corporate partners that can help move our mission forward. They need to know the demographic and psychographic makeup of our audience, including our donors. If you would please, pretty please, give us this information. We're not going to use it to sell. We're not going to sell it or share any personalized information with anybody, but that we're going to aggregate the demographic information to help move the mission of the nonprofit forward. A for-profit would make a similar case to its audience to create comfort. And as long as you get a statistically valid sample of people responding, it doesn't have to be huge, it doesn't have to be, thousands of responses. You just need to know who your audience is, and those are the ways to do that. Had another question about demographic data. Seems like most of the questions were about demographic data. Here's another. Would you recommend paying for identity solutions software to populate demographic information from a contact list? We were recommended to look into paying for a similar solution. Yes and no. If I'm paying a third-party service for demographic information, I'm wondering where and how they got it. I'm not casting aspersions on these software solutions. I'm sure they're great. But in the end, uh, I'm going to have the conversation with the sponsor about where'd you get this data? Because again, remember how important it is to the sponsor. If you don't nail this, the sponsor's customers are not going to be in your audience. And even if they agree to sponsor your property, they're going to be upset because it won't be successful for them. They won't drive awareness, drive sales, drive any of their goals that they might have if their customers are not in your audience. Now, the question, and I've gotten this question, where did you get this data? I like to answer that question. I got this from Google Analytics. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's good. I got it from a survey where I surveyed my audience directly. Oh, how long ago did you survey them? About 6 months ago. Oh, that's great. Great. Thank you very much. How'd you get this data? I got it from a third-party service, which took my contact list and through big data was able to give me demographic information. Again, it might be 100% accurate. Again, I'm not casting aspersions on that solution, but in those examples that I gave you, I was able to address that question square on. So again, I'm having authentic, real, no baloney conversations with my prospects because that's the brand that you want, and I'm sure that your organization stands for. So I would think twice, potentially do it, but I like those other. I won't call them old school because Google Analytics is not old school, but those other solutions. Looking, let's see. Also on the demographic issue, I think I want you to all take the survey about future webinars, but I think I'm going to do a future one on demographics, psychographics, and buying habits because we're getting a lot of great questions. So be happy to do a free webinar on that subject. Part of one question about demographics asked, what do you consider the most important data points to have in your presentation about the audience demographics? So it's really, again, it's going to depend on the prospect if I'm customizing it. But if I'm creating the base deck, I'm going to go with the most popular ones that sponsors have asked us or any property for. They're going to want to know gender. They want to know race and ethnicity. They want to know age. They want to know place of residence. They want to know household income, and they want to know education. Those are kind of like the hits, the top 40 of demographic information. You can go deeper. And on the psychographic side, because I love psychographics, psychographics create the remember, that's the values and hobbies. They create breadcrumbs for you to find sponsors. So for example, what I want to do on psychographics is if let's use Pizza Fest USA as an example, and I'm making this up a little bit. I find that the number one hobby for the attendees is fishing. That people who love pizza are rabid anglers. They go out every weekend. If they're not eating pizza, they're eating fish, and they're out on lakes and streams and oceans fishing. Remember I talked about non-endemic sponsors, those sponsors that are not related to pizza? Well, if the psychographic information from my pizza festival audience shows that those people fish, I am going after every sponsor related to the fishing industry. Because I say, listen, I know I'm a pizza festival, but look at this psychographic information that I got from survey. This is crazy. All of our attendees go fishing on Saturday. This is nuts. You as a fishing sponsor need to be a part of our family of sponsors. Same thing with the buying habits. If I have a buying habit, like I'm going to ask, When are you going to buy a new car? When are you going to buy a refrigerator? When are you going to buy, like, just sort of general categories of hard goods, or things related to that I know are related to my audience. If I see that like 47% of my audience is going to be in the market for a new car in the next 6 months, based on what they told me, I'm going to every car dealership within the catchment area of my event, everyone. And first thing I'm going to put, I might even put it in the About Us section, is I got a bunch of people who are going to buy new cars. Come on, car dealer. You want to talk to my audience. So that's an example of like how I'm picking and choosing data to include in the deck. But like demographic, I like that, what I call the top 40. It's really like top 8. But those are the ones that you really need. So I got another question. Here's another question. You mentioned the sponsorship cycle is about 12 to 18 months. How many months prior to a public event do you put a deadline for sponsorship agreements? Great question. So no matter when you have sold it, you're going to have two kinds of deadlines. You're going to have production deadlines when, if you have a program, the program needs to go to print. Even if you have a digital program, the program's got to be laid in and digitized and turned into a PDF and put in as part of your app, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to have a ton of production deadlines. You're going to have a ton of things which are mission critical to giving sponsors credit, or giving sponsors the opportunity to be a part of your event. For example, in hospitality, if I know like I oversubscribed in hospitality, I want signed agreements so that I know how much food to order prior to that event. So I'm backing that out to a production deadline. Then the second thing is I'm backing it out even further forward, because every sponsor is like lags with signing on the dotted line. Oh, I have to go through procurement. Oh, I got to have my lawyer look at it. Oh, I got to do all these different things. So you really want to create hard and fast. I just had this conversation with a colleague yesterday, as a matter of fact. Create hard and fast deadlines for sponsorship agreements, because I don't even trust sponsorship agreements necessarily. I like to have the check in hand, or Venmo, or however you receive money, well prior to the event. Because I've had sponsors that have signed agreements, gotten all the goodies that they want. The check was in the mail, and then never paid. And all I have is, I don't have a sponsorship payment, I have a lawsuit, which no one wants that. So I am backing things up well ahead. And I'm brutal about it. Even if you lose them, I'd rather lose a sponsor, because the ones that like don't make those deadlines are the ones that are probably going to not pay you. But I'd rather not have a hassle with a sponsor over payment or that than lose them. I'd rather lose them than all that hassle. So back up your deadlines well ahead and stick to it. I believe I've answered every question. I thank you for your attendance at the webinar, crafting customized sponsorship decks. I hope you've learned stuff. I hope you've had fun. I hope you consider the sponsorship success method. We, as sponsorship Sherpas, literally live to help people attain their sponsorship dreams. So we hope we can help you. But no matter what, I wish you sponsorship success. And no matter what time zone you're in, I wish you a great Wednesday. Thank you.